Over the last few episodes, we've gone over all the template helpers and most of the matchers that you can put in the transition map. And so we figured out when and how to trigger our transitions, but what about the transitions themselves? Well, there are a lot of predefined transitions, and those are the ones that we've been using. For example, there's left and right and up and down, which are fairly self-explanatory. There's fade, where it fades out and fades back in. Crossfade, where it does both of those at the same time. And we're going to skip these for a second to go to the more easily explainable ones. There's scroll in, where it goes up and then spins that way, and basically you put scroll in before any of the others. And that's how that one works. And then there's scale, which I don't recommend. See that right there? Yeah. And then finally, of the easily explainable ones, you have wait, which it works a little bit like scroll in that it does something and then it does one of the more normal ones. So here, first it takes two arguments, wait, which is what we're going to use first, and then the length of time, and then in the hash it has the then statement, which is where you give it what it's going to do after the wait. And so we're going to get to these two in just a second, but before that, I want to point out that you can also define your own transition animations. And you can do that using this DSL as well as the animation primitives. And then if you want to get lower level than this, you're going to have to get into Velocity.js. But we're not going to go over creating our own animations at this time. What we are going to do is use the explode functionality to make things that look pretty custom, but without that much work. So here's one of the examples. You'll notice that this header goes up and down while this below just fades. That's just a small demonstration of what you can do with explode. So let's build up this syntax step by step. You'll remember that we're using liquid bind in order to animate between different monsters. And so the rule we're using is toWrite with the duration of 3000. But let's change this so it's using an explode. So what we're going to do first is we're going to set a default transition. So notice we're giving it one hash, and we'll be giving it multiple hashes later, but we're giving it a use key, and this will actually be an array. And so we're just going to give it a fade. So when we change monsters, it's going to fade. So because there's no selection here, it's going to grab everything that matches with this. But here's where we can start exploding stuff, is when we have multiple hashes. So we'll have another one here that we'll have it toWrite. And we're going to use the pick key in order to grab something. Now here in show, we've got, let's go ahead and grab the name. And then while everything else fades, the name will go off to the right. So notice the structure here. Here's the first rule. And we're selecting it based on a CSS matcher. And everything that matches that, it uses this. And then everything else falls through to the next rule, which happens to be a catch-all since there's no selection rules going on. You can apply this for many, many different rules, as many as you need. So for the next rule, let's go ahead and use the level. So we'll create a new rule hash, and we'll pick the level, and then we'll go ahead and do toUp. And we can actually do this with or without the array. So if you don't want to have any arguments, you can use the non-array form. But if you want arguments, you'll need the array. So we'll see this in action, and we've got our name and our level flying off the screen. But what if you don't want it going out to the right and then coming in from the right? What if you want it going out to the left and then coming in from the right? How can we do that? Well, so we'll recognize that one of them is the new element and the other is the old element. So the one that we want flying into the right is the new element. So we'll use pick new. And then we'll copy this, and for pick old, we'll go to the left. So notice the old one is flying off to the left, exploding off to the left, and the new one is exploding in to the right. So as we can see, we can set these rules to filter based on, well, for pick, it's going both directions. But for pick new, it's the one that's coming in, and pick old, the one that's going out. There's also match by for pairwise transitions, such as fly to. Here's an example. It's exploding with match by and fly to, which is really, really cool. So that's it for the explode transition. Once you wrap your head around them, they're really easy to make, and they make your app look really, really cool.